boldest progressive set of policies ever proposed by a politician in the United States. This may not look like much outside the United States, but inside the United States, this thing is made up of 6 very, very important points. With over 10 million people in the last 2 weeks losing their jobs, we are at unprecedented levels of unemployment already. We are talking about heading for even worse than the Great Depression. Folks have got to focus on this. They've got to understand that this is the most important thing we're going through right now, including the virus. People don't understand, obviously, because they're in panic mode. So much of life around them has been completely disrupted. It's very hard to understand what's going on. It's very hard to get out of your own little world. So much nonsense going on with people blaming 5G wireless and other insane conspiracy theories that I had thought we had gotten past with Sandy Hook and all the other nonsense. But no, folks are trotting this stuff out even now, so people don't know what to believe, which is really, really probably the greatest punch in the gut of them all, is that even in this time, people would stretch the truth and create nonsense that would distract from the most important things we have to focus on. More people are going to die from unemployment and from a lack of finances, from suicide to a lack of health care, you name it. And Bernie Sanders came up with 6 key points that I think are just outrageously incredible. No other candidate comes close. Never did, never will. It was very depressing listening to folks like Jimmy Dore out there slamming Bernie. You know, I don't see Jimmy out there slamming Tulsi, but Tulsi's sitting there right now suckling at the teat of Joe Biden. So I'm not sure why that glass house is throwing stones, but glass house, don't throw stones. This 6-point plan right here is absolutely life-changing, and I've got it on the screen, so hopefully y'all can read along. The first one, it's addressing the employment crisis by ensuring workers remain employed and paid, as well as providing social services for everyone in the country, regardless of citizenship or immigration status. I want you to think about that. Between a job guarantee, a federal job guarantee, between nationalizing payroll and keeping everyone fully employed, to providing all the robust services that we fought for. That first bullet alone is a game changer. If enough of us were paying attention instead of being distracted, we could put that thing out there and really make it stick. Joe Biden is already telling you he's not even going to go for Medicare for all. I want you to understand. This is like a very, very serious chasm. These aren't just wouldn't it be neat kind of programs. These are what it's going to take to keep everything from bottoming out. And I know there's some people out there that probably don't have children that would celebrate everything bottoming out. But for those of us who do have children, the idea of it bottoming out is in no way, shape, or form something to celebrate. I want to kill capitalism just as much as anyone. And this kind of program right here is a surefire way to start making sure that they realize the power of the federal government is far greater than capital ever could be. But we've allowed capital to have a special place in society, much stronger than anyone should have allowed it to. But capital reigns supreme until we prove otherwise. The second one is guaranteeing a free point of service Medicare for all single-payer health care system for everyone in the country. Period. Everyone in the country. I don't know how much more clear you can get than that. In fact, I used to work in a group, a consulting firm that was working on the Affordable Care Act. And one of the people on one of the IT calls said, I think I figured out how we can fix this whole problem. All I got to do is change the eligibility age down to 0 and everybody will be covered. We don't have to do all this crazy integration work. I didn't think much of it then. I mean, I did, but it seemed like it was pie in the sky, right? Now we realize it really isn't all that pie in the sky. Anyway, immediately using the Defense Production Act to manufacture personal protective equipment, PPE, ventilators, and other needed healthcare equipment for frontline workers dealing with the pandemic. If you see the nurses and doctors in New York City, many of them have taken to the street with pictures of their dead coworkers. We don't have nearly enough ventilators. We don't have nearly enough masks. We don't have nearly enough of anything. And why is that? Because we couldn't spend the money when it mattered. Because people were too steeped in the worthless idea that taxes funded spending. They were trapped in a neoliberal bubble, and many people are still stuck there. Many people refuse to understand the federal government has the power to do everything that Sanders is saying to do right here. They still want to talk about paying for it with taxes. They still don't understand how this will not bankrupt the country. They still have no idea whatsoever. And sadly, just like the 5G crackery, we got the other cranks on the other side talking about the Federal Reserve and the Rothschilds and stuff like that. We're doomed from so many angles, from myths from the fire pit. It's unbelievable. And so Sanders is not only fighting against the establishment, but he's fighting against the illiterati, not the Illuminati, the illiterati that come up with these myths and legends, and they tell them over and over again until they become real to them. And then we can't do these bold things because these people are steeped in the idea that we've got to make the Rothschilds slip on a bar of soap in their tub when the butler slips them, or poison their Earl Grey. Because they don't understand that the Federal Reserve is nothing more than a scorekeeper, a spreadsheet in the middle of things. And now we're realizing very quickly that the Federal Reserve is a creature of Congress, and the Federal Reserve can be taken completely under control by an act of the president, by an act of Congress, if they so chose. It just doesn't make sense why people can't get that. They don't get it, and it is holding us back. And we're in a position now where people are dying now for that ridiculous mindset. And it is ridiculous, baby. It's ridiculous as hell. So in any event, production has been the single most important aspect of what we always hear about hyperinflation. When you don't have enough ventilators, the price of ventilators goes through the roof unless production ramps up to meet demand. It's not based on the fact of printing money, but people will have you believe that. Why is that? Because of right-wing lies that have been told forever, starting back in the Milton Friedman era when he came up with quantity theory of money. And that right-wing bullshit has permeated the progressive culture. The Green Party lives by it. And the Green Party needs to get rid of it if it ever wants to be a viable landing place for progressives. Because as long as they carry the water for right-wing thinking, they're never going to be able to do that. And they certainly couldn't handle Sanders' plan because of their money reform policies. They're founded in economic crankery. Still, even now in 2020, they're still holding on to economic crankery. The positive money folks in the UK have gotten rid of almost all the crankery that the daggone Greens are holding on to with their AMI platform. AMI standing for American Monetary Institute, which is full of cranks. It's pure crankery. It's like one of those buffonicus type money crank stories that come out of nowhere. They got all the octopus on the Fed, the people. And folks, I'm sorry, but if you're one of those people, you're on the wrong side of this. The Fed is a creature of Congress, period. And we're going to die if you don't get this. That's no joke. Your fetish about the Fed is going to kill us, and it's going to stop us from succeeding. And I don't care if you get this or not, except we'll die if you don't. So I guess I have to care if you get this. Some green was out there fighting with me the other day, saying, oh, I'm not falling for that MMT government psyop. Who the fuck even says psyop? I mean, who even does that? This guy did. And it's a shame, because that's the kind of bullshit we're up against to survive. This is no longer a matter of wouldn't it be neat if we're fighting about certain monetary ideas. This is the level of ignorance we're up against to survive now. It's no longer just a Game of Thrones. It's now about survival. And we're up against people that are steeped in myths and legends and refuse to learn. Refuse to learn. And that's a damn shame. Till they do it, they're not viable. Anyway, the next one. Providing food for everyone in the country for the duration of the crisis. Now that's pretty damn bold, isn't it? That's way beyond food stamps. But you know what? Without production, Zimbabwe, the real Zimbabwe story, not the bullshit one that people talking about printing money, not that bullshit one, the real one, where production didn't meet demand, where the farmland was given to the native people of Zimbabwe who did not have the farming skills of the colonizers that they were replaced with. And their production plummeted to the point where there was nowhere near enough food in the country to feed everyone. And the prices went up. Money was you could bring a trailer full of money and it wouldn't matter. If there's no food, there's no food. Bernie's saying we're going to make sure the government ensures, because the government creates the money. The government ensures that we have food. The next part of this, and this is a big one, I talked about this the other day, probably many of you didn't even see it, and it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame. But $600 billion in aid to the states and cities. I think $600 billion is way low. I know the state of Pennsylvania was running a $600 million shortfall not too long ago. I would like to see that closer to $1 trillion in aid to the states and cities. More like double that, maybe even 1.2 trillion. And I'd also like to see, as part of this, eliminating student debt outright, eliminating debt in general. And he does come to that here in a second. This is why I love Bernie Sanders, because he's always thinking. I wonder why that is. I wonder if it has anything to do with being schooled and taught and counseled by modern monetary theorists. I wonder. No, I don't. I know. Next one. An immediate suspension of collections of rent, mortgage payments, medical debt, consumer debt for 4 months, and a suspension of student loan payments through the duration of the pandemic. That's huge. That's huge. That means that you're not worrying about anything for a while, that you can focus on your family, you can focus on your community, that you can focus on your children if they're sick, that you're not worried about whether your house is going to be taken from you while this pandemic goes on. This is huge. But Joe Biden won't even sign off on Medicare for all. I want you to know there are people out there that supported Joe Biden. I think it's time we had a talk with them. I think it's time we talked to them and asked them what the hell was wrong with them. There's something really wrong with people that support Joe Biden. There really is. There's something very wrong with them. This plan right here sounds like it's incredibly expensive. In fact, Bernie Sanders was on with Bill Maher the other night. And Bill Maher said, wow, how the hell are you paying for that? And Bernie's like, the cost of not doing it is going to be far greater than the cost of doing it. And he's right. Because once you get this economy completely flat and deflated, it's going to take a hell of a lot more money to prime that pump and get it going so that people can survive. Survive. Because what happens if this doesn't happen? Houses are seized by the banks. People are in the streets. Bedlam. Families are in the streets. Unemployment doesn't come anywhere near touching this. That $1,200 check is an embarrassment. That corporate handout was an embarrassment. Now, if you nationalize payroll, like Pavlina Trineva has been advocating everywhere she's been, and you advocate for the federal job guarantee, which we have been talking about nonstop, because it plays right into the Green New Deal, which is very, very vital, because this pandemic is just going to be the first of many. As climate change melts away, the protection we have from ancient viruses and bacteria, and those are released back into the atmosphere. We're just getting started. We're just getting started. This is just a taste test. This isn't even hard compared to what's coming. If you don't get the hang of this thing about the government can spend on the people and can make these things happen, if you're one of those people that refuses to learn this, I beseech you, I beg you to take a moment and consider what exactly it is you're trying to fight for. If you don't understand modern monetary theory, rather than speaking boldly about it, for real, for all of our good, for our lives, I'm asking you, ask questions. Don't speak with authority if you don't understand it. I'm serious. Do not speak with authority if you don't understand it. People that say it's a government psyop that don't know are doing more damage to our children, are hurting people left and right, are literally killing people because they're not getting the things they need, because that pathetic mindset isn't just an opinion. It's an opinion that kills. I'm asking you, please, take a moment. You know, the unemployment line was going like this. Then all of a sudden now the line goes straight up. I mean, literally like that. It's straight. It's not even like this. It's straight. It's a vertical line. These folks have no health care. They have no way of taking care of themselves. And we're just getting started. We're just getting started. I hope to goodness that we can get ourselves together, because if we don't get ourselves together, we're all going to die. And that's no joke. We're going to really die. There's going to be so much death, so much pain and suffering. I know there's folks talking about a general strike. I know there's folks talking about a corona strike. I know there's folks talking about a lot of different things, but without a full understanding of the capabilities of the federal government and having all these myths and legends sidetracking and sidelining you from being effective, it takes all of us really pushing in the same direction to make this happen. I don't want to die. I don't want my kids to die. I don't want to lose my home. I don't want to lose my job. And for those who have already lost all the above, I want you to get it back, or I want you to be taken care of. I don't want to see this thing go the way I think it's going to go. And again, I wish to God I could put the blame on the establishment. But there's a lot of cranks and kooks in our midst that are spreading lies, spreading misinformation, that are doing a grave disservice to all of us. They're going out there for likes and clicks. They're not serving anyone but themselves. I'm asking you all to please help me get the word out. Let's fight for Bernie Sanders' platform. even if he doesn't get the nomination. We cannot tolerate, I don't care if it's Trump, I don't care if it's Biden, this plan and the Green New Deal cannot go away. We cannot get sidetracked again, because that's what happened last time. People started spinning off and chasing little things here and little things there, and they didn't stay focused. And there's so many people that have never even heard of modern monetary theory. They think the government is funded by tax dollars. They think programs are paid for by tax dollars. They don't realize that government creates money constantly whenever it spends. It's the public money. It's our money. But they have lied to you for so long that you believe we don't deserve these things, but we do, and it's there and we can. I beg you from the bottom of my heart to please, if you don't understand, ask people that do. There is so much information out there. This is not a dirty little secret. Many, many millions of people are coming to understand that MMT is the way forward. It is the only way forward with us surviving. And that is the responsible thing to do. So please, if you haven't read up the full plan, go to Bernie Sanders' website, check out his 6-point plan. I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progress in Action. Have a great night, everybody. I'm out.